Hello, if you are new, welcome in. If you are returning, welcome back. Especially for those who are returning, I'm still fairly new to this. This is a learning curve. I'm learning as I go along. Since that initial 1984 video I posted 3 weeks ago, I have learned how to incorporate actual videos, so I decided a redo was in order. Hopefully, this will be a much better video. We are traveling back to 1984. Apple Macintosh computer goes on sale, also airing their now iconic commercial on that year's Super Bowl. Michael Jackson is rushed to the hospital when his hair caught fire shooting a Pepsi commercial, beginning his decades-long struggle with painkiller addiction, leading to his ultimate demise. On April 1st, singer Marvin Gaye is shot and killed by his father. If John Belushi was my first celebrity death to shake me to my core, Marvin Gaye would be the second. A Russian computer programmer releases his new game Tetris. Los Angeles will host the 1984 Summer Olympics. As retaliation for the USA-led boycott of the Moscow-hosted Olympics in 1980, the Soviets will boycott the games in LA. Mary Lou Retton of the USA Olympic gymnastic team scores a perfect 10 for her final vault. She is the first American woman to win an Olympic gymnastic gold medal. September 15th, Princess Diana gives birth to her second child, Henry Charles Albert David. The former Prince Harry, he did give up the crown to have a normal life with Meghan Markle, right? Also in September, Vanessa Williams becomes the first Black woman to win Miss America, only to have to give the crown back when photos of her appears in Penthouse magazine. Ronald Reagan wins the 1984 election in a landslide. In music, Prince's When Doves Cry, Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It, Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson's Say, Say, Say were the top 3 songs. As I'm trying to keep a consistent pattern going on with these 10 movie videos, I forgot to mention in my last video for 1983, Annie will end its 6-year run on Broadway. Cats will win the Tony Award for Best Musical. In 1984, La Cage aux Folles wins the Tony Award for Best Musical, beating out one of my favorite Stephen Sondheim musical, Sunday in the Park with George. The Real Thing wins Best Play, beating out today's more recognizable Glengarry Glen Ross and Noises Off. On television, you had the premiere of Charles in Charge, Night Court, Riptide, Who's the Boss, Miami Vice, Highway to Heaven, Murder, She Wrote, and The Cosby Show. Another elephant in the room moment, not knowing of the horrific stuff that was occurring. In 1984, The Cosby Show was applauded as a groundbreaking sitcom portraying a Black family in a positive light. It was a massive hit, appointment television in my house growing up. Again, starting to have some consistencies with these 10 movie videos. I briefly mentioned Academy Award winners in my 1983 video, but not for my 81 or 82. So if you'll indulge me for a moment. In 1984, Shirley MacLaine wins Best Actress for Terms of Endearment. Robert Duvall wins Best Actor for Tender Mercy. And Terms of Endearment wins Best Picture of 1983. And as always, in 1984, we were still going to the movies every weekend. Auntie is still taking us mostly to the Capitol Theater, but I'm equally going to see movies on my own. It feels like 1984 will be the peak of all the 1980s movies we consider classics today. And though some of the movies that would really be considered classics might not make my 10 movie list, these are nonetheless 10 movies of 1984 that I wanted to see over and over. But before we get into it, please hit that like and subscribe, and let's begin. At number 10, Johnny Dangerously. Johnny Kelly reluctantly goes into a life of crime to put his kid brother through school and help his ailing mother. Johnny locks horn with his arch-rival, Danny Verman. Johnny's kid brother that he's been putting through law school becomes an assistant district attorney, not knowing that his brother, Johnny Kelly, is actually Johnny Dangerously. He's intent on bringing Johnny's criminal organization down. Johnny is framed for murder and is sentenced to death row. Danny plots to kill Johnny's brother. Johnny breaks out of prison to save his brother in the most hilarious way. Released December 21st, 1984. I saw this movie in Old City. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie when Auntie took us to the Midtown. I want to say we were seeing American Dreamer. In the trailer, Johnny hanging Danny on a hook and Danny saying, "You shouldn't hang me on a hook, Johnny. My father hung me on a hook once. Made me want to see this movie." As I'm writing this overview, the plot seems very implausible. Siskel and Ebert thought so too, giving it 2 thumbs down. But 12-year-old me had a good time and wanted to see it again. I saw it one more time in the theater. At number 9, Bachelor Party. Tom Hanks plays Rick, a slacker goofball bus driver who proposes to his girlfriend Debbie. Debbie's family, who is rich, disapproves, especially her father. Her father will plot to break them up along with her ex-boyfriend Cole. Rick's buddies want to throw him a bachelor party with chicks and guns and fire trucks and hookers. Released June 29th, 1984, to address another elephant in the room. Right or wrong, growing up, I've seen a lot of R-rated movies. From 1981 till I actually turned 17 in 1989, I can seriously count on one hand the number of times I've been refused entry to an R-rated movie by the box office staff. this would be one of those times. I will ultimately see this 4 times in the theater. If I were to address another elephant in the room, watching this for this video, and especially watching it through 21st century eyes, this movie sadly did not age well at all and would not be acceptable today. There were some elements of this movie that did make me cringe when watching this for the video. At number 8, Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo. Kelly reunites with Ozone and Turbo to save Miracles, a community center from being torn down by land developers. Kelly also deals with her parents not wanting her to hang out with those street dancers. Released December 21st, 1984, it wouldn't have dawned on me at the time that the first Break-In was released in May. For many years, I thought that this was released in early '85. I was just getting out for Christmas break when I first saw this at the Duke and Duchess Theater, and then several times throughout January and maybe February of '85, seeing this between the Capitol Theater and the 69th Street Theater. And when talking about my first introductions, well, Ice-T. Though Ice-T was technically in the first Break-In movie, that first Break-In movie didn't make my 10 movie list, so Ice-T. At number 7, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Realizing that Spock, before his death, put his soul into Dr. McCoy, Kirk and crew steal the Enterprise in order to return McCoy to the forbidden planet Genesis, where Spock was left, in order to bring him back to Vulcan so that his soul can be returned back to him. Released June 1st, 1984, we saw this later that summer at the Capitol Theater. A double feature with Trading Places. I was there to see Trading Places and thought sitting through this movie is going to be like watching paint dry. Nope. Having not seen the first 2 movies, I was immediately taken in by the recap of the second movie and that amazing, stirring movie score by Jerry Goldsmith. By the time they stole the Enterprise, I was hooked. My dad was into Star Trek, so I always knew who Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock were. And in fact, I have very pointy ears, so growing up, I used to be called Mr. Spock. This movie would have been my first introduction to Dr. McCoy, Sulu, Chekhov, Uhura, and Scotty. It also wouldn't have dawned on me at the time that Christopher Lloyd was the Klingon in the movie. It won't be until Star Trek IV, 2 years later, that I will become a full-blown Trekkie. I saw this almost every day for the week it played at the Capitol Theater. At number 6, City Heat. In IMDb overview, Kansas City in the 1930s, private investigator Mike Murphy's partner is brutally murdered when he tries to blackmail a mobster with his secret accounting records. When a rival gang boss goes after the missing records, Murphy is forced to team up with his ex-partner, Lieutenant Spear, even though they can't stand each other, to fight both gangs before Kansas City erupts in a mob war. Released December 7th, 1984, Siskel and Ebert will rank this movie as their top 10 worst movies of the year. I have to respectfully disagree. I had a great time with this movie. I loved the chemistry between Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds. The supporting cast, Madeline Kahn in particular, were great. I saw this at the Regency Theater 4 times. At number 5, The Cannonball Run 2. An all-star cast led by Burt Reynolds raced from California to Connecticut. Released June 29th, 1984, in a twofer, another movie ranked as Siskel and Ebert's top 10 worst movies of the year. Watching this years later, unlike disagreeing with their assessment of City Heat, they make valid points of their criticism of this movie. As a kid, I enjoyed it. I saw this maybe 6 times at the Midtown Theater. At number 4, The Muppets Take Manhattan. Recent graduates Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, and the rest traveled to New York City to get their college musical produced on Broadway. Released July 13th, 1984, I saw this at Sam's Place Theater. This movie had heart, some funny moments, particularly the scene between Piggy and Joan Rivers, Piggy getting her purse snatched, borrowing Gregory Hines' skates to go after the mugger, and of course, the Muppet Babies. This was a movie I saw maybe 5 times. At number 3, Ghostbusters. 3 fired college professors will form a paranormal investigation and elimination organization, battling spirits with their proton packs. Released June 8th, 1984, this was seen at the Duke and Duchess Theater, I would say close to 10 times. At number 2, Police Academy. Recruits from all walks of life, led by Carrie Mahoney, strive to graduate despite resistance from Lieutenant Harris. You're rooting for Hightower, Tackleberry, Hooks, and of course Jones, the human sound effect machine. Released March 23rd, 1984. The first few times I saw this was at the Regency Theater. Now, many people may not remember that the first Police Academy was rated R. And as I said earlier in this video, I can count on one hand the number of times I've been refused entry into an R-rated movie by the box office staff. This would be one of those times. Throughout 1984, I've seen this 10 times, if not more. Movies that would be considered classics today that didn't make my 10 movies of 84, but I feel like I should quickly acknowledge them. As I go to the movies, one of the things that I always enjoy seeing are the posters in the lobby and the movie trailers. Here is a list of all of the movie trailers and posters that I clearly remember. At number 1, Beverly Hills Cop. I'm almost certain it was in the lobby when seeing The Muppets Take Manhattan, seeing the poster, he's been chased, thrown out of a window, and arrested. Eddie Murphy is a Detroit cop on vacation in Beverly Hills. Released December 1st, 1984, I first saw it that Sunday at one of the Sam Eric theaters on Chestnut Street. I forget the name. Opening weekend, not certain if it would be sold out or if they were going to let me in this R-rated movie. The movie theater was so packed, I could barely hear over the loud laughter. I absolutely had to come back to see it a second time. For that reason alone, between December 1984 and March 1985, I've seen this well over 10 times, maybe close to 20. And there you have it. My 10 movies of 1984 that I wanted to see over and over. What were your 10 movies of 1984? Leave a message in the comments. Until next time.